Yeah, during the exploratory phase of investigating the options and the benefit of a solar energy system, property owners need to be aware of the insurance provisions that should be taken out and looked at when investing in a solar array. They're very, very safe when installed properly, but nevertheless, I've noticed that it's still seemingly a misunderstood technology whereby a lot of insurance companies and the corresponding underwriters can't really understand the technology and don't really know how to assess the risk with these systems, especially in the absence of like a national standardization or education program such as NABCEP. Really, all we're doing is relying on electrical safety authority certificates and electricians that connect these systems. But frankly, there's not many of those folks that actually get on the roof, which is where all the high voltage stuff and dangerous stuff really is isolated to. So that definitely poses problems for the insurance industry in general as they explore their way through this kind of conundrum with the solar industry. But certainly something that you want to be aware of. You definitely want to ensure that you have coverage for this system for at least act of God. Property and buildings are really, really expensive. You want to make sure that this energy system is going to add value to that property and not be a detriment. What happens if these installers and these manufacturers aren't around in a few years? And in some cases, I mean, you can look at the United States, Titan Solar. These are some of the biggest powerhouse solar installation companies south of the border. These were multi-million-dollar companies, and all of a sudden one day the lights are shut off. What happens to all of those customers? What happens to that Rolodex, and what happens to their systems? Who's supporting these things? So whether it's big or small, these things do happen. And it's happening in the United States, never mind here in Canada, where the market is much, much smaller. And we're seeing more and more fly-by-night companies come and go, door-to-door sales reps trying to push sales and drive sales and take deposit checks, and all of a sudden they disappear, or they have a problem with their system and these companies cease to exist, or they've gone back to wherever their head office is located or what have you. And all of a sudden we're left with a customer that is unsupported in a piece of the value chain that is part of their realization of the value of the asset that they just purchased in the solar energy system. And what we're seeing is, coverages that are coming in that are perhaps a little bit inadequate for the type of asset that's being developed on the property. And what I mean by that, like most insurance companies, they cover loss of property in the form of damages. So in this case, the solar array would be insured for the cost of the physical array, the replacement costs, and any damages, God forbid, loss of life or something like that associated with the operation of the array. However, one of the things that, again, we're seeing a little bit of absence in the market is, what about protecting the actual operation and the value and the cash flow, future cash flow and expected cash flow from these assets? These are systems that are comprised of several different components, all carrying different manufacturers' warranties, and in some cases bankable, in some cases not. But ultimately, what it comes down to is who's installing these things. And then again, how do you underwrite this and assess that risk that these types of companies are actually going to maintain their presence in the industry, but also deliver on their commitment to stand behind these systems for the life cycle of their systems, which in some cases could be upwards of 40 years. We're talking about technology evolution, different manufacturers. And that's really another challenge that we're seeing, both with warranties and how it corresponds to assessing the risk of the operations side of the assets as it pertains to insurance. And we're looking at working on a couple of things here in the background to try to get involved and perhaps look at some solutions to some of these types of problems that we're starting to uncover. as this industry continues to evolve. It's exciting stuff. Maybe not insurance so much, but nevertheless, we want to ensure that all the assets that we are developing, at least from a Brightworks side, when we're offering our clients these systems, that they have the confidence and the peace of mind that these systems are going to be fully backed and supported for the life cycle of the entirety of their system.